Good evening, people of Earth and beyond. You've signed on for another edition of the King's Castle. I'm King James. I'll be your host for the next hour of wrestling news, entertainment news, and whatever else you want to know. And here to help me break it down as always is my colleague, who just recently got his ears lowered. The always reliable and rarely shy Blair Chopin. Blair,
Hey,
good evening.
Good evening.
And nice hairdo.
Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to talk about what has been a very newsworthy week
Get your news
for the wrestling industry. The biggest news story, if you will, is the fact that starting July 19th, SmackDown will air live on USA on Tuesday nights. And as a part of all this, they're going to do another brand extension, which means each show will have their own separate roster and they'll have their own general manager. Now, we realize that this could mean that tag teams could be split up. It means we could see champions exclusive to one brand. So, to make things a little more interesting, we're going to give you our input by having our own little mock draft here tonight.
But first, let's get our thoughts on this because it is big news. So I wanted to get kind of your take. I know you're the hostess with the mostest, but what do you think about the idea of doing a brand split again?
Well, you know, they've done this before, as you well know, and you wrestling historians know. The WWE did the brand extension where Raw and SmackDown went their separate ways in 2002, and they kept changing the rosters up every couple of years to keep it interesting. But to be honest, while I think this is a good thing for the competition part of the storyline, I also think this is going to piss a lot of people off because on one hand, you're excited to see the new breed, if you will, of SmackDown talent try to make the show better. But at the same time, I think there are some people who like seeing every superstar on every show. So there could be a little bit of backlash here either way.
I think I like it. And here's the reason I like it. I think, obviously, the WWE since 2002, 2001 has had kind of a monopoly on the pro wrestling world. And because of
Meaning they control pretty much everything.
Right. And that means, like, everything is kind of bettered by some sort of competition. If there was just one wrestling show where they talked about wrestling in the world, then that show might grow dull because it had no competition.
Right.
But so they're kind of manufacturing their own competition between the brands, and I think that will make for a better product. What concerns me is I thought the reasoning behind it when it first happened in 2002, that era, was kind of the influx of WCW superstars. So they kind of had too many people on the roster. Right now, I just don't know. Like, they've had such an injury problem lately and a shortage of people that I don't know if this is the perfect timing for it. But yet, I like the competition aspect of it. And maybe they'll use this as a way to put NXT superstars into the draft and get more of them on the main roster.
Maybe. But here's another thing you have to consider. When they did the initial draft in 2002,
Your brother.
it was Ric Flair representing Raw and Vince McMahon representing SmackDown.
Right.
And the whole concept behind that was the storyline was that Flair and McMahon couldn't get along running both shows together. So the board decided, let them have control of one show each and split the locker room up.
Right, that was the storyline.
But in this case, Stephanie and Shane are getting along perfectly, much to the surprise of a lot of fans
right now.
running Raw and SmackDown. So, if the brands split up, does that mean one of them controls Raw while the other controls SmackDown? or is somebody else going to run SmackDown? So there's a lot to consider here.
Yeah, I mean, there is, but I think, like, part of the reason they're doing this is to further the rivalry between those two.
So they're trying to build a competition between Shane and Stephanie?
Yeah, as well, as part of that. But I really don't see a downside of it, especially if it gets those NXT guys on one of the main rosters, too. Because, really, the WWE's main competition, if you think about it, the past couple of years, kind of has been the NXT. So if they can kind of bring that energy into the main product, I think that's a really, really positive thing.
And the important thing to consider here also is that there are no exceptions as it relates to this draft, except for the WWE champion, because he would need to be on both shows in order to defend the title. So that means even if the person was injured, such as Neville, who had to undergo knee surgery just before the Royal Rumble, he could wind up exclusive property of SmackDown, or vice versa.
Right, I gotcha.
So, as I said, we're gonna do our little mock draft coming up, and we're also gonna cover the return of John Cena, which was shocking in its own right, and we're gonna get to that right after we do this. So stay tuned.
That was really good. Really good analysis there.